And we're back-ish, sort of. Let me browse through chat here. They could spend some time with friends. Just finding this channel by accident. Yeah, it's honestly that is how like most things get found by accident. It's just you run into things and then they stick with you forever, or at least a while, anyway. Yeah, your birthday. Happy birthday, or so. Whatever that happened to be. Apparently, I'm not allowed to say that preemptively, or it's bad luck, or so. Alright. Well, cool. Alright, anyway, this is Umineko Answers Arc, and it feels like it's been a while. We can if you want. Give me 1 sec. Yep. One. There we are. Right. There we are. Well, at least we should. Supposed to be up. There we are. Bear with me, it's been a little funky. Alright. I think that does it. Anyway, Umineko, we last left off with it being Natsuhi was told to hide in a closet for an hour after everyone was getting suspicious of her. Otherwise, Kraus would I'm sorry, names are escaping me for the moment. Kraus is being held hostage. She would need to hide in this closet, otherwise something would happen to her. She couldn't really refuse. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. And so she's in there. But while she was hiding there, Hideyoshi came in and started crying, and all of a sudden got attacked or assaulted by somebody. And that's exactly where we left off on the cliffhanger. So, let's figure out who it is. Alright. Who on earth could it be? No, it doesn't matter who it is. It's probably the culprits, and they're probably trying to take Hideyoshi-san's life. Shouldn't I jump out of here and help him? If I can't help him, shouldn't I call for help? No, but if I do something like that, I'll be questioned about why I was hiding here. However, if Hideyoshi-san gets killed like this... No, now isn't the time to be saying that. At this rate, he'll certainly be killed. I'll jump out of here and help him right now. But if I do that, even if I can save Hideyoshi-san, I might be abandoning my husband's life. Hideyoshi-san's life and my husband's life. How sinful it would be to try and weigh those against each other. At that time, there was a loud sound as the door opened and the chain was pulled tight. Someone was trying to open the door, despite the chain being set. Dear, it's me. Could you open up? Eva! Dear! What's happening? Dear! Open up! Open up! Open up, dear! Someone! She opened and closed the door over and over again with all of her might. But of course, she couldn't snap the chain. Eva-san called for help in a loud voice and raced through the hallway. And there we are. By this time, the room had settled back into silence, and that earlier sense of Hideyoshi being in a noisy struggle had disappeared completely. What's going on here? So, right now, I'm in the same room as the murderer who killed Hideyoshi-san? Hello, welcome. In that case, the culprit should try to escape from the room as soon as possible. So why are they hiding in here? I haven't heard anything. Nothing that might have been the culprit who attacked Hideyoshi-san, rushing away. No matter how much I strain my ears, I can't sense anyone in the room. In fact, it's so silent that it makes what happened just a second ago feel like an illusion. In other words, does this mean that the culprit is hiding his breath? Standing just outside this closet, waiting for me to stumble out? I don't even know what I should be scared of anymore. If only I could just melt away into the darkness of this closet. I mustn't remain in this room any longer. I get the feeling I have more to worry about than just my personal safety. But what should I do? I don't even know if it's a good idea to leave this closet. Eventually, the clamor of many rushing footsteps approached. I'll hold my breath again and melt away into the darkness of the closet. Eva dashed back, bringing everyone with her. Goto was gripping some wire cutters to cut the chain with. After trying to open the door again and confirming that the chain was still set, she yelled through the crack in the door. Dear! We're going to open this up! Cut it, right now! Yes. Goto stuck the large wire cutter, which looked like it could slice off a whole finger through the crack of the door, and easily severed the chain. Dear! As soon as it was severed, Eva pushed Goto aside and dashed in. The others tried to follow her, but they bumped into Eva, who had fallen to her knees, moaning. So even though they couldn't tell much of what was going on inside the room, they could tell by Eva's moans that they were too late. What the hell? Dear! Dear! Dr. Nanjo! Look at my husband! Quickly! I'll do it right now. You've got to be kidding me. It's only been about 10 minutes since Uncle Hideyoshi went out saying he wanted to rest. Is there anyone in the bathroom? No. There's no one here. What could have happened? Dear. Dear. I'm afraid to say that there's nothing I can do. Nanjo stood up, hanging his head sadly. It was only natural, because anyone, even if they weren't a doctor, would think that at a glance. Hideyoshi was lying face down on the bed, and stuck deep into his back was something like a blade with an intricate demonic design on it. When Eva pulled it out with all her might, they could tell that it wasn't a blade, but some kind of stake, and its sharp tip had penetrated nearly 15 centimeters in. It had probably dug deep into the lungs. If it had been stuck in any harder, the tip might even have pierced all the way through to the surface of his chest. Didn't I tell you to wait for me? Why did you go on alone? Stupid. 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 The culprit probably waited for us to get careless and split up. That bastard. So he still hasn't had enough blood. So he really is hiding somewhere in this mansion and coming after us? But there's something strange here. The doors and windows to this room are completely sealed. That's right. The shutters are all shut, and the door chain was set until a second ago. Huh? But that's crazy. In that case, how did the culprit attack Hideyoshi-san in this room? Maybe they threw the stake through the crack in the door. Hideyoshi-san's bed is in a total blind spot from this crack. You couldn't even kill him with a gun. This really is strange. It's a closed room murder. A closed room murder? It's a bit too early to be sure about that. Maybe he removed the ceiling in the bathroom and escaped to a space above it. Or maybe you can close the shutters from outside. The shutters. They didn't budge an inch from the outside. I just went and checked. Erika. It's no wonder everything felt so quiet and relaxed. At some point, Erika had split from the group. Just now, she had finally arrived and poked her face in from the hallway. When she heard that a crime had occurred in this room, she had watched everyone rush towards the room, but circle around to the outer wall herself. And she had gone all by herself to check that the shutter was down on the window, that you couldn't do anything with it from the outside, and that there was nothing out of the ordinary. Is the inside of the room just like usual? There's no need to say it like that. My deepest condolences. So, what's the situation inside the room? The chain was set on the door, so he cut it and entered. And all the windows have the shutters down. They're locked tight from the inside. What are they bickering about in there? Eva was arguing with Nanjo about something. Apparently, she wanted to carry the corpse to the parlor. Nanjo tried to calm her, saying that they should leave the crime scene as untouched as possible until the police came. What happened to the other corpses? The culprit carried them off somewhere, right? It may be that the culprit isn't satisfied with just killing, but intends to do something with the corpses. There's no way. No way we're leaving my husband all alone here. Eva does have a point. After all, the victims before now have all been carried away after we were shown their terrible wounds. Erika-chan, you'd probably like to preserve the crime scene, but could you just let this one slide? Do whatever you want. All I'm interested in is the fact that a closed room has appeared that's much more serious than Kinzo-san's study. I have no interest in corpses, so do as you please. Bather's expression was clearly unhappy, but she ignored him completely. Feel free to carry that corpse out any time. Or am I in the way? Erika backed away from the door to open a path. She showed no trace of any sadness for the dead. Her eyes simply blazed with thoughts of this closed room murder that had appeared. In any event, the great detective had given her permission. Eva and some others wrapped Hideyoshi up in the sheets, and Goda and Rudolph carried him out. The sheets were quickly stained red. It was so painful to see that Shannon and Kumasawa stripped the blanket off the bed to further cover the corpse. Hey, out of the way. Yes, I am out of the way. Let's go to the parlor.
はい。
Yes.
あなた、
Here.
あなた。いいこと、みんな。
Listen up, everyone.
これからは常に団
From
体
now
行動。
on, we'll always move as a group.
絶対に孤立
You
し
must
ては
not let yourself be isolated.
犯人は
When the culprit attacked Genji, he probably got a master key.
正常がもはや
It's clear that even locking up will no longer make you safe. But even the chain was set. How did they do it?
どうやって。
不可能だ。
It's impossible.
鎧戸もチェーン
The
ロックが
shutters
しっ
in
か
the
り
chain were firmly set.
マスターキーがあったって。
Even with the master key, it'd be impossible to force your way into that room. It must have been Beatrice-sama's doing. There's no way Beatrice-sama did this. The epitaph has been solved, so there shouldn't be any more reason to hold the ceremony.
わかるものか。
Of course we can't understand it.
こんなの。
This would be impossible for anyone except a witch.
魔女にしか不可能。
Impossible for anyone except a witch, you say. Gutta?
いい響きです。
Has a nice ring to it.
エリカちゃん、
Erica-chan, are you listening?
私たちはこれから
We've
全
decided
体
to
行
stick
動を
together from now on.
私たちはまず
First, we're carrying Hideyoshi-san's corpse to the parlor.
探偵ごっこはそれから
Can you
にしよう
hold off playing detective until we get there? When she heard the words playing detective, Erica grimaced visibly. Then, everyone stumbled out, and she took a single step into the now empty guest room, looked around, and burned that scene into her eyes. Erica claimed to have a photographic memory. If that was true, those few seconds were more than enough for her. Later on, she could sip black tea in the parlor while perusing the photograph of the scene inside her memory, playing the part of an armchair detective. Then, suddenly, her eyes stopped on the closet off to the side. A closet for hanging overcoats. If it was large enough to fit a coat or a hanger, a person should be able to hide in it. Slowly, Erica stretched her hand out towards the closet. Erica's shoulder was grabbed roughly from behind. Let's go, Miss Detective. Didn't you ever learn how to stick together on school field trips?
私が旅行に
Well,
行くと
whenever I go
必
traveling,
ず人が死
someone
ぬ
always dies.
お約束がありまして。
Hey, what do you think you're doing, brats? Come quickly. Rudolph told them to hurry. After clicking her tongue and glaring at the closet, Erica followed Battler back to the parlor for the time being. The sound of their footsteps finally faded. A time of terror when I feared that even the dripping of the cold sweat covering my cheeks might be noticed had finally ended. With my hand that still couldn't stop trembling, I slowly opened the closet door and dashed out into the hallway. It's okay. No one's found me. Still, it's a good thing they didn't lock the door. If they had, I wouldn't be able to lock it behind me after I left. They'd find that suspicious. Anyway, I should leave this place. Then I'll return to my room and pretend that I was sleeping the whole time. Yes, if I don't get back soon, a new murder has occurred. They'll probably try to tell me about it. And they'll probably do it shortly after they carry Hideyoshi-san's corpse back to the parlor. I can get around the phone call by saying I was asleep and didn't notice. But if they come knocking directly, that'll be bad. I have to get back quickly before they try to force their way in. I don't know whether I should run all out noisily, hide my footsteps and walk in secret, or walk around normally as though nothing has happened. At the very least, it'll be bad if I bump into them on their way back to the parlor. Anyway, I'll head to my room, at a quick pace, without being noticed by anyone. Oh, cool. Feel free to share. I pass through the hallway to the lobby. If I go up the big staircase in the lobby, my room is just a little bit...
夏日さん
Natsuhi-san. Just as she was about to go up the large staircase, Natsuhi heard Erika call out to her. I was so surprised that she visibly jumped.
ちょうど今から
I was just about to go and tell you the
あなたに
news.
お知らせに行こうと思ってたんです
それは
Thank
あ
you
りがとう
very
ござい
much.
ますそれで
Did something
何かあり
happen?
ましたか
今
Just
夏
now,
日さん
Natsuhi-san.
階段を登って
You
ま
were
した
climbing the stairs, right?
夏日さんの部
Your
屋
room is
って
upstairs,
上ですよね
isn't it? Erika coldly pointed out this strange fact. Natsuhi cursed her bad luck.
Ne-
I couldn't sleep,
客間に戻ろう
so I
とし
was
ていた
going
の
to
です
return to the parlor,
自分の部屋に
but I wasn't
鍵を
sure
かけ
whether I had locked my
不安
room or
に
not,
戻ろうとしたので
so
す
I was about to head back.
心配性なのでよ
I'm
く
a
あること
warrior,
です
so this sort of thing happens a lot.
気にしないでください
Don't worry about it.
よくありますよ
Yeah,
ね
that sort of
そういう
thing
の
does happen a lot.
記憶力に自
It's
信
a
がない
common
人
quirk
に
among
ありが
people
ち
who
な
aren't
癖です
confident in their memory. Normally, since Erika was clearly making fun of her, Natsuhi might have looked annoyed. However, right now, Natsuhi was extremely relieved to hear Erika admit this sort of thing happened a lot.
エリカさんこそお一
Why
人
are
でどう
you
した
by
んですか
yourself, Erika-san?
例の客室を調
I
べよう
thought
と
I'd
思いまし
investigate
た
that guest room.
客室
Guest room?
え
Yep.
大変なことになった
The
じゃないで
situation's
すか
gotten pretty serious, hasn't it?
現場検証は
And
私の
investigating the
任
scene
務
of
で
the
すので
crime is my right. Erika's probing gaze peered deep into Natsuhi's eyes. She could tell. Erika already suspected Natsuhi. Judging by the subtle nuance in her words, she must be planning to make me slip up and reveal that I know about the crime with Hideyoshi, when I supposedly haven't been told about it yet. Natsuhi played dumb and asked what happened again.
何か
Is something wrong?
いいえ
No,
何でも
it's nothing.
また
This is
最
just a
初の
repeat of the
事件
first
の繰り
crime,
返しですね
isn't it?
どういう意味ですか
What do you mean?
またあな
Again,
たは自室
you were in your room.
そして今回
And
も
again, you
その
can't prove your
アリバ
alibi,
イを証明できないわ
can
け
you?
ですよね
おっしゃっている意味がわかりません
Don't know what you mean.
逆を言えば私が
To
実
turn
質
it
にいな
around,
かったことを
how can you
あな
prove
た
that I
こそ
wasn't
どう
in my
証明さ
room?
れるわけですか
おや
Ah,
そうきました
that.
かならばそれは
And let's take this one step at a time.
鍵は後にしてください
Please worry about your lock later.
皆さんに
I have something vitally important to discuss with everyone.
鍵を確認したら戻り
I'll
ます
come back after I check my lock.
先に始めていてくださ
Please
い
get started without me.
秀吉さんが殺されました
Hideyoshi-san has been killed.
その件について
We'll
で
be
す
talking about that. What? She had planned on using the need to check her lock as an excuse to escape to her own room, after which she would claim to have a sudden headache and stay in bed the rest of the time. However, now that she had been informed of Hideyoshi's murder, it would be clearly suspicious to postpone that and escape to her room. She was already under suspicion just because she'd been seen heading up to the stairs to the second floor. She couldn't afford to do anything else suspicious. Natsuhi gave up and headed for the parlor, as Erika had urged her to do. I think this is actually where we joined in on the game, or just about. When she opened the door to the parlor, Eva's sobs poured out, and everyone glanced at Natsuhi with grave faces. Those gazes almost made it look as though they suspected Natsuhi. It was now painfully apparent to Natsuhi. This must have been what that man was after. It was a trap to create a baffling closed room mystery, and try to frame her for it. However, she couldn't have resisted. She couldn't sacrifice her husband's life. And while it's true I hid in the closet, that's all I did. I definitely haven't committed murder. I might be extremely suspicious, but I'm not the culprit. And most importantly, I'm not under suspicion yet. I'll tell the police everything. I'll have to endure until then. I'm sure one of the servants is a traitor. Even in a situation like this, if I mention my husband being held hostage, the culprit will hear and might use it as an excuse to kill him.
ちょうど夏日さんが戻ってきてくれました。
Natsui-san has just come back.
全員が揃ったところで
Now that we're all here,
私
I
から
have
皆さん
something
に
very important to
とても
discuss
重
with
要
you
な
all.
話があります。
重要な話。
Something very important.
え
Yes,
重要な
it's
話です。
very important.
最初の事件か
I'd
ら
like to lay out
全て
everything in
皆
front
さん
of you
の
all,
前で整理したいと
starting
思い
with
ま
the
す。
first crime.
それなら他
And
の
please
皆
do
さん
that
も
with just the
なさってくだ
others.
さい。私はそう
I
いう
think
こ
we
と
should
は
leave
警
that
察
sort
に
of thing
任せ
to
る
the
べきと思っ
police.
ています。関心がありません。
I'm not interested.
整理した上で
Since I have it all
重
laid
要な
out,
お話が
this
ある
is
ん
a
で
very
す。
important thing to discuss.
あなたにも誰にも
Neither you nor anyone else has the right to refuse. But what? Erica used her detective's authority to proclaim the start of an assembly. None of the pieces could disobey. Praying that she wouldn't become the topic of conversation, Natsuhi reluctantly sat on the sofa as she'd been urged to.
あすみません。
Sorry.
その扉
Could you
閉め
close
て
that
もらえ
door
ます
for me? Yes. Shannon and Canning closed the door. Since it had been decided a short while ago to lock all doors and windows carefully, Cannon locked it. That lock, which existed to protect the safety of this room, felt like a lock on a prison cell to Natsuhi, one that would hold her in place and prevent any escape. Natsuhi still hadn't noticed. Though Erica had gone into the corridor to check the crime scene in Hideyoshi's room, her goal had changed. In other words, from Erica's point of view, the sound of that lock was truly
チェックメイト。
checkmate. Erica said that suddenly. Berncastle said that suddenly. Oh, fast. Well, so you figured out the culprit already? We've barely gotten to any of the crimes, right? You could have just let me kill a few more and gathered a few clues yourself. Okay, Lambda. Gather all the pieces. Now we're getting to the most interesting part. Let's both enjoy it to the fullest. Well, let's see. Why don't you show me what you've got? To think she'd lay down the challenge without waiting for game set at midnight. What a hasty person. That Lady Berncastle. It is quite an early challenge. To think that she's already managed to obtain a winning hand at this stage. Normally, you can win by just claiming that a witch exists. But with Natsuhi and Kinzo, we've got a lot we need to protect this time. Sounds like this fight will be a pain. That's no problem at all. I won't let them do as they please with my golden island any longer. Bring it on, Lady Berncastle. Food of Erica. I'm pretty certain that my guess is right now, especially after that last scene. In the Golden Land, the endless rain continued to fall. Battler was nowhere to be seen. It would very soon reach the time that Battler had joined in on the 5th game, and control of the pieces would be passed on to Battler. In other words, he would only be officially added to the game now, in this final stage, where Berncastle had pinpointed the culprit. So, he had left the arbor a short while ago. Now, the only ones in sight were Virgilia, who continued to knit silently, and Beato, who just sat there blankly amidst the smell of her black tea, not even putting the cup to her lips. Virgilia stopped knitting for a moment, and looked out across the vast golden rose garden that extended as far as the eye could see. I believe it's safe to say that at least in the game over who the culprit is, Battler has gained such strength that he will never surrender again.
もう二度と
くすることのない力を身につけられるでしょう。
surrender again.
くすることのない力を身につけられるでしょう。
Battler has gained such strength that he will never surrender again.
By the fourth game, you had sent him all your messages. In other words, at this time, Battler-kun is capable of realizing the truth at any moment. However, he is still soft in some ways. So, even if this game continues like this 100 times, he won't solve it for all eternity. He'll just wander forever, like someone trying to find the blue bird. And that is you, Beatrice. It's the same for you. Even if this game continues hundreds more times, you will never reach the answer you seek for all eternity. Oh, cool. I guess I'm the reason for that then too, so haha. But no. And it's stuff like that, the serendipity of how just met this guy, found this, did this, and now I'm here. And that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this first step. It's just cool how the world like interlocks together like that. It's pretty cool. Anyway. Oh yeah, it's cool. Good on you. Burncastle will abuse this game without a doubt. Lambda Delta will also turn this game about with the utmost arrogance. At a glance, that may be humiliating and appear to you and Battler as though the game has been stolen from you. However, that is something the two of you need right now. To end Battler's naive softness. To end your hesitation. And that's why you called the two of them here. To end the eternal torture between you. Those two will bring you either victory or defeat. But no matter how it goes, that result has already been filled with compassion. You should understand that as well by now. Regalia faced Beato, whom she had come to adore as a daughter, with cold eyes that she must not have shown often. It was like the gaze of a mother who, instead of scolding, silently urges their child to recognize their mistake. So it begins. I started with one. Now I've got, like, what is it? 6? Yeah, I've got like 6 of them now, so. You just start with one, and then they need a friend, and they need a bit more, and then it keeps going. I'm a steal, my boyfriends. Oh, you get one for him, and then you give it back to yourself. It's like, oh. Anyway. But yeah, be nice, play nice, and all that jazz. Beatrice, how long do you intend to stay there? Neither alive nor dead, not rising up to heaven, nor falling into hell, there on the peak of Mount Purgatory. I am Virgilia. I have guided him through Purgatory, and brought him to you at its peak. And you are Beatrice. You must choose whether to take his hand and rise up to heaven, or grab him and fall into hell. Did you know that the discord called Purgatory, which lies in the gap between heaven and hell, is sometimes more torturous than even hell itself? On the gates of hell, it is written that you must abandon all hope. A human without hope can accept their suffering and give up. However, the residents of Purgatory have hope. A hope of possibly reaching heaven. A hope that cannot be abandoned. And it tortures them. Even in the depths of hell, no greater torture device exists than the single pin known as hope. Fly. Fly from the cliffs of Purgatory. Take with you the regrets caused by your fleeting, fragile, foolish hopes, and open up Pandora's box. Are you scared? Scared of opening the box? Beato was silent, but with a single tear, she nodded slightly. Is the cat in the box alive or dead? The time has now come to check. If the cat is dead, quickly hold a funeral for it and have it rise to heaven. If the cat is alive, quickly feed it and give it all of your affection. Whether it is alive or dead, your cat box eternally desecrates the cat. The key to the box that you were afraid to open has been brought to you by those two. Beatrice, it's time for you to die now. I hope that your heart is stopped by the hand of the person you desire. Umineko no Naku Koro Nichiro, Nocturne of Truth and Illusions. Interesting. Well, I think I figured out this game. I still haven't quite pieced together the Beatrice Battler aspect. They just fast forward to midnight, huh? Thanks, Schrodinger. Yeah, he basically lives to point out nothing makes sense. This is a new one. All of the pieces from the game board were gathered. All of the humans, furniture, witches, and the witches on an even higher level had gathered in one place. An even higher level? That place was like a solemn cathedral, with an unbelievably high ceiling. White stonework, golden ornaments. Though there were windows, there were no entrances or exits. It was a strange, strange place. But for some reason, no one wondered where the strange place was, because they were not given the right to think of this place as strange. The pieces. Have they all been gathered? Yes, they have. Well then, what a show. I wonder just how many people there are here. Hey. No matter how many we see, every being outside the 18 is a phantom. Making you acknowledge them is what my game is all about. Apparently so. I guess. The three witches were seated on special thrones set upon a very high balcony. In the center sat the game master, Lambda Delta, and on either side of the semicircular balcony sat Berncastle and Beatrice facing each other. Below them, Erica ran forward, lifted the corners of her skirt, and bowed respectfully. Great Lady Lambda Delta, we thank you for granting our request for an assembly. And Great Lady Berncastle, my master, please look forward to it. Though it may be only for a short while, I will most certainly make my master forget about the poison that torments her. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I'd expect no less from my double, my piece. Erica and Berncastle exchanged cruel smiles that'd make anyone want to avert their gaze. Listen up, witches and humans. I hereby announce that with this assembly of witches gathered, the Court of Illusions will now begin. The commander of the game spoke with words of power. The words were spoken within such a vast space. They rang out with the force of a bell in a bell tower. Your lives and roles as they correspond to this game are over. The 5th game is now closed, and the midnight answer session shall begin. Well, I'd like to get started quickly, but why don't we have everyone quickly introduce themselves first? After all, there are so many people here. I am Lambda Delta, the Witch of Certainty and the new commander of this game. Burn Castle, Witch of Miracles. My goal is to penetrate Beatrice's illusion of the witch. I am the endless witch Beatrice. My goals are to claim my own existence and to protect Natsuhi and Kinzo. Battler-sama, you come next in rank. I'm Ushiromiya Battler. I'm fighting against Beatos. No. Against the witches. That's all. As I believe you know, you joined in on this game partway through. At the time this assembly of witches opens, you have yet to participate. Do you understand? I get it. It probably means I don't have the right to speak for a while, right? Thank you for understanding. Even though Battler held a rank near that of witches, he sat on the foremost of the benches shared with the other relatives, all by himself at one end. He met the gaze of Beato, who was up on the balcony. You might have said you were my archenemy. Well, you aren't necessarily my only enemy. Let's take this game back. It belongs to us. Yeah. I almost said I was fighting against Beato's illusion of the witch. Since the beginning, Beato has been my only enemy. But, right now, Erica and those witches who started toying around with Beato's tail are also my enemies. Who should I fight, and how? Maybe it's a good thing I don't have the right to speak for a while. I'll calm down and coolly watch over everything. I am the detective and the one who called for this assembly of witches, Furuta Erica. I will expose the culprit of the 5th game and stick a charming period on the end of this tale. Erica greeted the witches above her and the humans behind her once again. I'm also looking forward to it. Okay. Remaining pieces, introduce yourselves in whatever order. Humans, introduce yourselves, all of you. When 45 urged him to introduce himself, Kinzo stood up. Because of course he is, he's Kinzo. I'm Ushiromiya Kinzo. I slipped out of the study window, and I'm hiding somewhere on Rakonjima. Ushiromiya Kraus. Currently, I have been captured and am being confined elsewhere, somewhere. I'm Ushiromiya Eva. I'm alive. I'm Rudolph. The rest of us are all Ushiromiyas too, so I'll leave off the family name. I'm Rosa. I was killed on the first twilight. Jessica. I also died on the first twilight. I'm George. I also died on the first twilight. Maria. I died, but look, I'm here talking. See? Dying isn't a big deal, right? I'm Ushiromiya Natsuhi. I am alive. Hideyoshi here. I was killed just a short while ago. Kiri. I'm still alive. Nanjo. I'm also hanging in there. My name is Genji. I passed away on the first twilight. I'm Shannon. I'm still alive. I'm Canon. I'm also alive.
ゴーダです。
I'm Goda.
よろしくお願いします。
Pleased to meet you, everyone.
熊沢で
I'm
ございます。
Kumasawa.
よろしくお願いし
Pleased
ます
to meet you.
続いて
Now, on to the witches.
全員自己紹
Everyone,
介を
introduce yourselves. Kind of birdie. Big and fancy. Virgilia's group could also be seen. Unlike the floor Beata's group was on, the second floor had a balcony that looked like raised audience seating. And they sat there, looking down as though they were at a theater.
ワルギリアと申します。
My name is Virgilia.
ベアトリーチェの師匠です。
I am Beatrice's teacher.
ガープよ。
I'm Gap.
死体を
Making
消す
corpses disappear is my job.
ロノ
Ronove.
紅茶を入れる。
I'm in charge of making black tea. Noble job.
煉獄の七姉妹を
I
代表
greet
して
you in the
ご
name
挨
of the
拶申し上
Seven
げます。
Sisters of
第
Purgatory.
二の番の秀吉
I
たちを
served in the
担当
murder
しま
of
した。
Hideyoshi on the Second Twilight.
煉獄の七
The
姉
Seven
妹ここに
Sisters of Purgatory, right here.
続けて
Let us then have Lady Erica's furniture introduce themselves.
ガートルー
Gertrude.
異端神
I
話
am
補佐
Assistant
官
Inquisitor of Heresy.
コーネリア
Cornelia.
異端審
I
問
am
補
an
佐官
Assistant Inquisitor of Heresy. The two of them could also be seen on the second floor audience seating. They sat apart from Virgilia's group. Shotgun. Then, Eleanor, who was seated between the two, slowly stood up. She had a presence and dignity about her, as though she was overseeing everything from that place.
ドラノール
Eleanor A.
エノッ
Knox
クス
is my name.
エリカ教の主席
I am Lady Erica's primary assistant.
バトラー
Battler,
あなたには
I
期待してい
expect
ま
much
す
from you.
私を失
Please
望
don't
させないで
disappoint
くださ
me.
い
お互い。
Let's
全
just
力
both
ぶつ
give
か
it
る
all
まで
we've got.
ドラノールの出番
Most of the time, there will be no need for Deleanor to step forward.
しかし
However,
マジ
when
カ
the
ーが
witch
醜く
side
見
plays
の悪
around
い
with ugly word games,
それを断罪
I'll
して
need to
もら
have
わねばなり
Deleanor
ません
convict them.
書斎での
A
奇跡
miracle
は
like the one in the study won't happen again.
最後にご挨
And
拶
finally,
申し上げます
let us introduce ourselves.
本魔女宗
We
会
are
の
the
進
Chiesa
行管理
Sisters,
を命
Imperial
令られた
Guards, who have been tasked with management of proceedings at this assembly of witches. Hello, everyone. Yeah, yeah.
以上で
This
全
ends
て
the
のコマの自
introductions
己
of all
紹介を
pieces.
終了するであり一堂に会す
A
る
total of 38 people are present here. There are 38 characters in the 5th game. But if you added all the pieces from previous games too, it would probably rise even higher. 38 characters in the 5th game? I'm gonna have to recount that one. This game, which has so often been likened to chess, now has far more pieces than a chessboard.
いいわ
Very well.
では始めようかし
Then
ら
I guess we'll get started.
おっきに
Let the person who called this meeting begin.
ああ
Oh,
悪いけどそこで
excuse
ヤギ
me,
さん
Mr. Goat.
ジュースのおかわりお願い
You
ね
filled my drink.
私にはポップコーン
And some
を
popcorn for me.
ああ
Yeah,
そうだったわね
That's right. The one who decided demons ought to eat popcorn when watching a play was you, after all.
え
Yes,
え楽し
I
ませて
intend
も
to
らう
enjoy this.
あと
And could I get some black
紅茶と
tea
返し
and
味噌
mustard
もら
miso?
うエリカ
Erica,
始めます
begin.
私の退屈
I'm already starting
も
to
う
get
始ま
bored.
ってるわ
はい
Yes, my master.
お任
Leave
せ
it to me.
静粛に
Order. Silence. At the sound of her voice, the Giester sister chorus straightened up, lifted their right knees, and stamped down hard on the floor with their heels. It became a low, deep rumble in the ground, and all chatter in the cathedral disappeared instantly, as their eyes and expressions became even more hollow and empty. The room fell back into silence, almost as though they were a collection of wax models. Amidst this heavy silence, there was the sound of footsteps. as Erica walked out into the center, where she could catch everyone's attention. When she signaled with her chin, a goat attendant appeared from behind a pillar, and carried a single, plain chair out in front and center of the room. It must have been the defendant's chair.
フルドエリカは告発します。
I, Furuto Erica, will make an accusation.
第5のゲームの
The
殺
murder
人犯
of
は
the fifth game is... Ushiromiya Natsuhi-san.
あなたが
You are the
犯人です。
culprit. Erica pointed at Natsuhi and spoke. The Natsuhi waxed all alone, shook and regained its expression. It was an expression of panic.
シエスタ姉妹
Siesta sisters,
被告人を
please
席
take
で
the
連れて
defendant
ちょ
to
う
her
だい
chair.
了解であります。
Understood.
ちょっと
Wait,
何を
what
す
are you
るので
doing?
す。話しなさい。
Let go of me. 45 and 410 both pinned Natsuhi's arms behind her back and led her to the chair in the center. Natsuhi resisted, but the Chiesa sisters were surprisingly strong, and she couldn't do anything. She turned to the relatives for help, but they just remained silent like wax models.
これよりフルドエリカは
I, Furuto Erica,
なぜ後
will
ろ
now
にナチスに
reconstruct
だ
why
け
the
犯
crime
行が
was
可
only
能か
possible for
再
Ushiromiya
構築としてご
Natsuhi.
覧に入れます。ベアト
Beato,
もちろん受けるで
of
しょう。
course, you'll be challenging this, right?
当然よ
Naturally.
後ろ宮家
I am the Ushiromiya family alchemist, Beatrice the Golden.
フルドエリカ
Furuto Erica,
受けて
I
立つ
challenge you.
我が主に
I'll
必
take
要
these
な
false
くらい
accusations
その
you're
濡
trying
れ
to
衣
place on my
引き
master
裂いてくれるわ
and tear them apart.
ベアトリッチェ
Beatrice,
安心せよ
fear not, Natsuhi.
そなたは我ら
You
の
are my
主
master,
そして
and you are the true head with the one-winged eagle engraved in your heart. Do not fear a crime you have not committed. At those words, Natsuhi jerked back and gulped. Her panic finally disappeared and she stood up straight.
そうで
It's
す。
true.
私は
I am Ushiromiya Natsuhi.
後ろ宮家を
I will
暴力する
confront any
あらゆる
challenge
挑
that
戦を
world
受けて立ち
that
ま
would
しょう。
disgrace the Ushiromiya family.
どうしてこの状況に
How could you try a bluff like that in a situation like this?
あなた本当に
You
どこ
really
の
are
か
the
けらに
bullied
もい
kid
じめ
in
ら
every
れて
single
ね
fragment.
ではベルン
So, Bern,
主張どうぞ
make your claims.
ベルンカステルは
I,
主張する
Berncastle, claim
このゲームの犯
that a
人は
human,
人間
Ushiromiya
後ろ
Natsuhi,
宮ナツ
is the
ヒ
culprit of this game.
ベアトもどう
And
ぞ
you too, Beato, okay?
ベアトリーチェ
I,
は主張する
Beatrice, claim
このゲームの
that the
犯人は
culprit in this
人
game
間に
is
ある
not human.
我らこそ
I
犯人
am
で
the
あるわ
culprit. Berncastle, who smiled daringly, and Beatrice, who smiled firmly, crossed gazes.
お聞きね
Listen,
魔女ども
witches
人間
and
ども
humans,
一つの真
two
実
claims
二つ
have
の
appeared
主
for
張
a
が
single
現れるわ
truth.
犯人は人間
Is the
後ろ
culprit a
宮
human,
ナツヒか
Ushiromiya Natsuhi?
犯人は魔
Is the
女
culprit
ベ
a
アトリ
witch,
ーチェか
Beatrice?
魔女が勝てば
If the witch
第
wins,
5のゲー
the
ムの
truth
真相
about
は
the
闇
fifth
に
game will
消える
disappear into darkness.
エリカが勝てば
If Erica
ゲ
wins,
ーム版
the
より
illusion of the
魔女
witch will be
幻想は
wiped
打
from
ち
the
滅
game
ぼされる
board.
つまり
In other words,
ベアトにと
for
っての
Beato alone,
負け
this
る
is
こ
a
と
battle
は
that
許
must
せない
not be
勝負だ
lost.
けれど
Are you
覚悟
prepared?
は大丈夫
何の
And what am I supposed to be
必要だという
preparing myself for?
元より
This has
望む
always
とこ
been
ろよ
just what I wanted. If Erica wins, the illusion of the witch will be destroyed. That means the existence of the witch will be denied. Beato was fighting for her life. However, this wasn't the only time she had been fighting for her life. It had always been a life or death struggle, even when she fought with Battler. Because if Battler had won and destroyed the illusion of the witch in the previous games, Beato would have been destroyed.
汚ねえ
That's dirty.
なエリカのやつだけ
Erica alone has nothing to lose if she fails.
それはどうで
I
しょう
wonder.
ベルンカステル教
Lady
授は
Berncastle is
情けな
not the
心がありま
compassionate
す
person.
彼女は
I
自分
can't
の
imagine
望んだ
she'd give
活
warm
躍をしな
treatment
か
to a
った
piece
駒
that
に
didn't perform
温
to her
かい処分
expectations.
を与えるとは思えません
It was inconceivable that the ruthless Burncastle would place no blame at all on a piece who had suffered defeat. Erica was probably fighting for her life just as much. The two claims would clash, and one would be weeded out. One would fall, and would not leave this place alive. The only ones who truly had nothing to lose were those witches. Okay, no problems.
さあ
Get started.
始めなさい。それでは
In that case,
私から始
I
め
would
たい
like
と
to
思
go
います。
first.
秀吉さん殺し
The
について
murder
は
of Hideyoshi-san
とても
is very
シンプル。
simple.
夏日さん以外の
It should be
方を
impossible と
疑うことは
suspect
不可能
anyone
な
other
はず
than
です。
Natsuhi-san.
私たちは
Except for the
被害者と
victim and
夏日さん
Natsuhi-san.
を除いて
All of us
全
were in
員
the
が
same
同じ
room,
部屋にいたじ
correct?
ゃないですか。
It really was simple. Except for Natsuhi, everyone had been inside the parlor. And because it was so simple, it was decisive.
どう考えて
No
も
matter how you look at it,
秀吉を殺
the
した
one
の
who
は
killed
夏日じゃない
Hideyoshi
の。
was Natsuhi.
いいえ、逆だ。
No, it's the other way around.
どう考えて
No
も
matter how you look at it,
夏日以
no
外
one
に
except
秀
for
吉は殺せ
Natsuhi
ない
could
じゃ
have
ない
killed
の。
Hideyoshi.
議論も反論の余
There's
地
no
もな
room
い
for
わ。
discussion or debate.
ですから誤解です。
I'm telling you, that's a mistake.
確かに私には
Maybe I don't have an
アリバ
alibi.
イがないかもしれません。しかしアリ
However,
バイがないことは
I don't
すな
believe
わ
a
ち
lack
犯
of an
人がある
alibi
との
proves
証
that
拠に
one
は
is the
ならないは
culprit.
ず。
うん。
Hmm.
夏日にだけ
We know that Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi.
だが待て。
But wait,
殺害
the
現
scene
場
of
は
the
密
murder was
室
a
であっ
closed
た。
room.
夏日に限ら
It
ず、
should have been impossible for anyone,
あ
including
の部屋での
Natsuhi,
犯行は
to have
不可能だ
committed the crime in that room,
魔法で殺人が
except
遂
for
行
me,
できるわ
since
ら
I
わ
could
を
have done
除
it
い
with
て
magic.
密室トリックである
I'll explain the closed room tricks, the how done it, later.
とりあえず今は
For the time
フーダ
being,
ニット
I'll
が
start with the who done it.
よって以上により
Because of the aforementioned, it's impossible to suspect any character except Natsuhi-san regarding the murder of Hideyoshi-san.
お嬢様、
My lady,
ここをさら
it
に
may be dangerous to press any further on this.
同感だわ
I agree.
夏日が秀
It's
吉
a
の
fact
部屋
that
のクローゼッ
Natsuhi
ト
was
に
hiding in
隠
the
れている
closet of
事実
Hideyoshi's room.
復唱要求で
When it comes to
所在の
repeating
確認
things in
を行われ
red,
ると
they'll check to
追い
see
詰め
who's
ら
in the
れる
room, and you will be cornered.
であろうな
Probably.
ゲームの支配者は
Lady
ラ
Lambda
ムダデ
Delta
ル
is the
だけを
commander of this game.
あやつが面白がれ
If
ば
it suits her
事
fancy,
実に関
she'll
係
set
な
up
く
Natsuhi as the culprit,
夏日が犯人
regardless
と
of
い
the
うことで
facts.
確定されてしまうぞ
If the typhoon passes and the police come to perform a scientific investigation, perhaps the true culprit will be identified, and the false accusations against Natsuhi will be lifted. However, in this closed-off Rokkenjima, the police will not arrive for an all eternity. In other words, the real truth will not be revealed. Inside this cat box that will never be opened, false charges that everyone accepts are worth no more or less than the truth.
おそらく向こうの狙いはシンプルな秀吉殺しで夏日様が犯人であるとの
Their
印
aim
象
is
を
most likely
確
to
定
use
さ
the
せ
simple murder of Hideyoshi to give the impression that Natsuhi-sama is the culprit,
その上で
before moving on to the first Twilight Tree
第
construction,
一の晩の最
which
高
has
地区に
more
入るつ
uncertain
もりでしょう
elements.
ゲームマスターに疑われた
It's
状態
not
で
good
の
at all
進
to
行
move
は最
forward with
悪
the
よ
game master suspecting us.
主導権を握るべきだわ
We should take the initiative.
うん
Sure.
ラムダデルタ教
Sure. Lady Lambda
ご
Delta,
存知の通り
as you are well aware, a fair number of murders were committed during the fifth game,
深夜から早
and
朝
we
ま
are
での
skipping the
短か
rather
らぬ
lengthy
時間
chunk
を
of
またい
time
で
from midnight until the early morning.
いきなり秀吉の殺
Skipping
人
to
から始
Hideyoshis
まり
murder
時間が行ったり
and
来た
stepping
りしてし
backwards
まう
and
ようでは
forwards in
混
time
乱
will
して
only
し
lead
まう
to
という
confusion.
ここは
It is my
時系列
belief that we
に従
should
う
follow events
順番に
chronologically. Objection.
犯人を告発す
In
る
the
過程
process
に
of
おいて
prosecuting the
時
culprit,
系列など意味を
chronological
な
order
さない
has no significance.
異議提出
Objection.
フルドエリカは
Further, Erica is
時
trying
系
to
列
mix
を
up the
混乱させる
chronological
ことによって
sequence in order to create a
印
false
象操
impression
作を
of the
行ってい
events.
る
Julia met Beatrice. That's what it is. Reached the peak from which you can see everything below you, and finally understood the truth of this world.
これが
This is
以前にワルギリア
that
が話
thing
して
you
く
were
れたこ
talking
と
about earlier, Virgilia.
えそうです
Yes,
よ
that's right.
ここでは真実など
Truth is very fragile in this place.
両者が主張する限り
As long as each side makes its own
異な
claim,
る真実が
different
同時に
truths can
存在
exist at the same time. Yes, This really is a trial. Both sides put forth their own truths. This here truly is the brown tube trial that Vergili once used as an analogy. Then I will follow Lady Lambda Delta's orders and start from the first crime at the first twilight. As you know, at midnight on October 4th, the first day, following a short break in the family conference, Natsuhi left on her own, saying that she was going to bed early. Therefore, her alibi is completely lost from that time until the next morning. The culprit is Yushimiya Natsuhi, because Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi. A lot of weird new things. Oh, is that so? I believe there are several people besides Natsuhi who have dubious alibis. Unless you can clear suspicion from all of them, I cannot allow you to call Natsuhi the culprit. We cannot conclude that Natsuhi is the culprit, as long as there are other people without alibis. The claim has been made that Natsuhi was the only one lacking an alibi between midnight and 1. This is being used as a basis for claiming that she is the culprit. However, as long as the following possibilities exist, it is impossible to conclude that this is the case. Was the crime also possible for Battler, who was in the guest house, Nanjo in the guest house, Goda in the guest house, Kumasawa in the guest house, Genji in the mansion, Kraus in the mansion? Was the crime also possible for the people in the mansion besides Natsuhi? Possible that George and the others were actually just playing dead? Is it possible that there was a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge Erika was in? Is it possible that the crime was committed before midnight? Is it possible the crime was committed after 3? Is it possible that the crime was committed outside the time span of midnight and 1? Is it possible that someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3? True. If Erika is going to call Natsuhi suspicious so confidently, she's first got to show that everyone else has an alibi. Right, Bird? Yes, of course. Erika will explain that perfectly. The culprit is Uchumiya Natsuhi, because we will prove that everyone else has an alibi. Of course, my master. In that case, I would like to explain things in order. Let's forget about Genji's murder for now, and focus on the crime in the guest house. For this case, you'd like to suspect the servants who were in the guest house, right? On that night, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were there. Isn't that right, you two? When she turned to face the direction where those two were seated, those two wax models alone came back to life. They probably weren't even granted souls until they were allowed to speak. In that case, it would have been better if Natsuhi's soul could have disappeared as well. Natsuhi, who was in the defendant's chair, kept her soul the whole time, and was constantly hanging her head, looking nervous. Goda hurried to his feet and answered Erika's question. Yes, that is correct. On that evening, I was alone in the guest house servant room. Well, look at my age. Staying up all night would be a heavy burden. So I returned to the waiting room in the guest house, and went to bed right away on my own. Yes, yes. Doesn't that mean Goda and Kumasawa have lost their alibis? Kumasawa claims that she was sleeping alone in the waiting room. Goda claims he was alone in the servant room. Either of them should have had enough time to go to the cousin room and commit murder. But this is nonsense. Why would we do something like that? That's right. That's right. How could I ever kill someone? We cannot conclude that Natsuhi is the culprit. After all, was the crime also possible for Kumasawa and Goda, who were in the guest house? Natsuhi said it all. Both Kumasawa, who was sleeping alone in the waiting room, and Goda, who was alone in the servant room, are in the exact same situation as Natsuhi in her room. Both of them have lost their alibis. Have no fear. I guarantee that neither of these two are murderers. First off, following dinner, Kumasawa-san left the mansion with me and the others and went to the guest house, entered the waiting room, and slept until morning. It's the same for Goda-san. Once he finished with his job, he chatted with us in the lounge and went to sleep afterwards. Neither of them had the opportunity to commit murder. So, we're finally here. I see it's time for me to stand up as well. Your turn is over already, Erika. Go summon that bodyguard you rely on so much. Beato glanced at where Dillonor sat on the second floor audience seating. However, Dillonor just stared back with those usual expressionless eyes. Repeat it. We have absolute proof of Goda and Kumasawa's alibis. We refuse. Why give a hint to an enemy? There's no way we'd answer. Did you hear that, Lady Lambda Delta? They say they have no proof. How could they claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis without proof? Good point. What do you say, Burn, Erika? How can you claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis? Fall back, Erika. My opponent is Dillonor over there. A mere human like you can be no match for a witch. No. There's no need for Dillonor to step forward. In fact, it's precisely because a mere human will defeat a witch that the illusion of the witch will now be denied. So go ahead. Use the red and blue as much as you like. I'm ready for it. Okay? In response to Erika's challenge, Beato smiled boldly, yet gracefully, and slowly stood up. And they glared at each other between the floor and the balcony. Goda and Kumasawa have no alibis. The two of them were in the guest house and could have reached the cousin room to commit murder at any time. Unless you can deny that possibility, you cannot treat Natsuhi as the culprit. Beato's blue truth struck out rapidly. The curtain had finally dropped and the battle had begun. A human like Erika can't use any red. How could she turn this around without calling Dillonor? Though Erika cannot use it, her master, Lady Burdencastle, can. We mustn't let our guards down. Blue truth, valid. What will you do, Burn? Will you or Dillonor step in instead? It is still not my turn. And it is not Lady Burncastle's turn either. Yes, that's right. There's no need for us to show up for something like this. This is important precisely because a mere human like Fuda Erika will defeat you, Beato. Because you'll be defeated by a human. We'll know. We'll all know that the fake witch who calls herself Beatrice the Golden is nothing more than a subhuman phantom. If you really could do that, it'd be totally entertaining. Very well, Erika. Let's see what you've got. Explaining it for the first person, Kumasawa-san, is extremely simple. Kumasawa-san, stand. Yes. Kumasawa-san, from the time you went to bed last night to the time you were informed about the crime in the morning, did you ever leave the waiting room? No. I was sound asleep until morning. I really was. The truth is, after dinner last night, I had a chat with Eva-san, and she told me something very interesting. I tried that out myself. And what exactly is that? You don't mean... That's right. It's what cornered and sealed Kinzo in his study. I learned that you can create a seal by putting something between a door and the frame. Are you kidding? Did she actually do that to Kumasawa-san's waiting room? Erika was in the guest house, so there's no obstacle to her having been capable of that. After all, it was an unsettling night, and a massive amount of gold had just been discovered. Many sorts of crimes might have occurred. Where there is a detective, there will be a crime. I foresaw that some kind of crime would take place, so I used this to seal away people whose alibis might otherwise be lost. Erica held a small, folded piece of brown paper high in the air. After I watched Kumasawa-san, who returned to the guest house with me, say goodnight and enter the waiting room, I used this to seal the door. Then, in the morning, when the crime was discovered and caused a big uproar, I immediately went to check Kumasawa-san's waiting room, where I confirmed that the seal was still set. Therefore, I can prove Kumasawa-san's alibi. Kumasawa has an alibi. Good. A wonderful alibi. Not a single gap. Kumasawa returned to the guest house with Erika, went to the waiting room to sleep, and never left the room until morning. In other words, after Kumasawa returned to the guest house, she never went to the second floor until morning. The proof Erika had shown was elevated by Berncastle and became red truth. This truth, which had become red, could no longer be overturned, even by Beato. In other words, in that instant, Kumasawa's perfect alibi had been absolutely guaranteed. Then what about Goda? Goda-san holed up in the servant room right after reaching the guest house. I sealed him up in the same way. Then, when Rosa-san returned at 1 a.m., I happened to notice her when I stepped out into the corridor. I let Goda-san, who was still in the servant room, know this. At that moment, the seal was still in place, so from the time we arrived at the guest house until 1 a.m., Goda-san never left the servant room. And afterwards, he was with me in the lounge until 3 a.m. And after 3 a.m., I was on the second floor. So, I can guarantee that Goda-san didn't come up to the second floor. Erika's seal proves that Goda was holed up in the servant room until 1 a.m. And Erika has proven his alibi from then until 3 a.m., since she was passing the time in the lounge with him. And Erika has also proven that she never set foot on the second floor until the morning after. In other words, after Goda returned to the guest house, he never went up to the second floor until morning. Goda has an alibi. Honestly, I had no idea this was coming up when I came up with the alibi in the title. And again, things just fit. Red truth, valid. Well done, Erika. The alibi due to your seal on that door has been acknowledged by Byrne and elevated to the status of red truth. Thank you very much, my master. I am the detective. I may be human, but I can use the red truth despite that and surpass humans. So now you claim to have surpassed humans. It's 1,000 years too early for you to talk like that, conceited brat. It'll be a pain to have you try anything funny, so I'll make this clear now. In fact, I should have done this in the beginning. I apologize for being so roundabout. This is the situation around the guest house at midnight. The gold was found, an emergency family meeting was called for, and Battler-san went to the mansion with the relatives. I, the three cousins, Dr. Naito, Goda-san, and Kumasawa-san, remained in the guest house. I have already explained Goda-san and Kumasawa-san's alibis. George-san, Jessica-san, and Maria-san were playing cards in the cousin room. I actually joined them for just a little bit, and I clearly witnessed that they were alive at that time. My master, I ask that you repeat this. Yes, I'll respond. At midnight in the guest house, George, Jessica, and Maria were alive. And in the second floor cousin room, Najo, Goda, and Kumasawa were on the first floor. And, since there's no need to hold off on it anymore, I'll confirm that all the victims so far are dead. George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji really are dead. How could they be playing dead with their necks sliced open like that? No murder occurred before midnight. We guarantee that George's group is dead. Alright. Whittling away. Thanks for repeating that, my master. If we hadn't made these things clear, you might have started going on about how they were already dead before I guaranteed everyone's alibis. Or that they weren't actually dead at all. Unsurprisingly, Beato's side couldn't get away with the simple plan of claiming that the victims were only playing dead. But in order to overcome Goda and Kumasawa's alibis, it should have been possible to suppose that the crime occurred before those doors were sealed. However, the opponent had predicted this move perfectly. It had been shown in red that the crime did not occur before the time period covered by Erika's alibis. Got it. That's the last time the victims were confirmed to be alive. I wish you'd said that in the beginning. This means we can ignore everything that happened before midnight. To go even further, at midnight, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in a corridor on the second floor of the mansion. All of the remaining people were at the family conference in the dining hall. Of course, at that point in time, no murder had occurred. Genji was also alive. We confirmed that those thought to be inside the mansion at midnight were indeed inside the mansion. Addendum, it has already been shown that none of them left the mansion before 1, excluding Natsuhi. This isn't something Erika observed, but we can't move the game forward without settling it. Very well, I'll acknowledge that red truth. Thank you very much for that red truth, my master. Since Erika had been in the guest house, it is only natural that she could explain the situation there. However, since she hadn't been in the mansion at the time, explaining the situation over there would have been extremely difficult for her. Beata would normally have attacked there with the blue truth, saying that the people in the dining hall had all agreed to keep to the same story, that someone had snuck out of the dining hall, and that they might have committed murder in the guest house. However, because Byrne had instantly settled that matter with a red text, Beata had completely lost her chance to strike back. Damn it. Very troublesome. To think that we would be put at such a disadvantage. This is almost the exact opposite of Risha's fight with Battler. In fact, the situation might be even worse than it was back then. At a glance, the fight between the two of them resembled our previous fights. However, there were some vital differences. The first was whether or not Beata was the Game Master. The Beata who fought against me was the Game Master, but she knew all of the truth. That's why she was able to use the red text at will. However, the current Beato isn't the Game Master. She's just a single piece on the game board. In other words, even Beato doesn't know the truth. So you could say that Beato is now in the same position I once was. Also, though Erika may seem to be in the same position I once was, the situation for her is totally different. She's connected to the witch called Burntcastle. Even though she isn't the Game Master, she's capable of elevating Erika's statements to become Red Truth. Because of this, Erika can use the Red Truth, even though she's neither a witch nor the Game Master. Beato, who's supposed to be the witch, possesses no truth, nor red she can use. And yet the detective, Erika, can use the Red Truth. The advantage has completely flipped over to the other side. Perhaps you could say that the current Beato is in much worse position than I was when I fought with her. After I got used to the game, Beato stopped responding to my demands that she use the red. But in the beginning, she had responded to almost all of them, giving me quite a few hints. That's why we were able to fight on par. However, Burntcastle is different. She fully understands the rules of this game, and is prepared to corner Beato without even a hint of restraint. And because of this, I knew. In the past, Beato went easy on me so that we could fight on par with each other. This has become quite an amusing fight. I see. So I must fight from the position Battler once stood in. Beato. In the past, I've insulted you and called you incompetent. I can handle much, much worse than this. It's now impossible to suspect Goda and Kumasawa. You can't win by arguing that point any longer. Yes, let's switch to a different approach. The next in line would probably be Nanjo. He was also in the guest house. Nanjo was in the lounge with Erika. However, I believe the time periods before and after that have been left open. That's right. I'll strike there. Nanjo, you were relaxing in the first floor lounge of the guest house with Erika and Goda, correct? Was the crime also possible for Nanjo, who was in the guest house? Yes. I was with Erika-san the whole time. And during what time was this? From 1 AM to 3 AM. Yes, that's right. It was the period between 1 and 3. Dr. Nanjo, Goda-san, and I were relaxing in the lounge. Repeat it, my master. I'll respond. From 1 AM to 3 AM, Erika, Nanjo, and Goda spent their time in the lounge on the first floor of the guest house. Though she had flat out refused to repeat what Beato told her to, she responded to Erika's demands immediately. The red truth was starting to corner Beato. She grimaced as though in pain, but she still stuck back with a blue truth. No, perhaps she really was in pain. Now that the characters apart from Natsui have their alibis established, the illusion of the witch is also being denied. Beato perceives the denial of her existence as pain. Even so, he shouldn't have an alibi for the time period before and after you were in the lounge. It is possible for Nanjo to commit the crime too. That's right. I get that Nanjo was in the lounge with Erika from 1 to 3. But what about before and after that? What about that, Erika? Yes? First, the alpha before 1 AM. This is no problem at all. I played cards with the cousins in the room until midnight, and then went downstairs to the lounge where I met Dr. Nanjo. That's right. At midnight I met Erika-san after she came down the stairs and spoke with her, learning that she was quite the connoisseur of the mystery genre. I realized that I found a kindred spirit. When I went into the library to solve the epitaph's riddle, I noticed that there were several original copies of famous foreign mystery novels stored there. So, I wanted to discuss them with the actual books in hand. We moved to the library and were talking the whole time. Constantly, until we moved to the lounge. Cramped though it was, that book storage room in the guest house was stocked well enough that it was fair to call it a small library. In it were several foreign mystery novels that Kinzo had once taken a liking to. Of course, they were all originals and in English, but English was no problem for either Erika or Nanjo. For this occasion, they had borrowed the key to the library one more time from Goda in the servant room. At that point, Erika checked the seal again, and, of course, reset it. Damn her. Even though she keeps it sealed for anyone else to enter or leave, she alone enters and leaves whenever she wants. I see. So, from midnight until 3 AM, when you went to sleep, you were with Nanjo the whole time. That means Nanjo's alibi is the most rock-solid of them all. Yes, that's it exactly. My master, repeat it. I'll respond. After midnight, Erika was with Nanjo the whole time until 3 AM. At midnight, the crime in the cousin room still hadn't occurred, so this way an alibi had been established for the period before the time they were in the lounge. After that, we walked out of the library and into the hallway at 1 a.m. When we did, we just happened to bump into Rosa-san as she returned. I then told Gola-san about that. I figured it was probably a servant's responsibility to welcome in a guest. Goda asked if she should bring a towel, but Rosa refused. She quickly headed up to the second floor. At this point, Erika, Goda, and Nanjo gathered together and decided to have a drink. Their alibis in the lounge up until 3 a.m. have already been proclaimed and read, so there are no problems here. Let's continue on to after 3 a.m. This is Dr. Nanjo's alibi after we split up. At 3 a.m., Battler-san returned and the people in the lounge went their separate ways. Dr. Nanjo, Battler-san, and I went up to the second floor. I then said goodnight to Dr. Nanjo. At this time, of course, I put a seal on the door to the doctor's room as well. And it went unchanged until the crime was discovered. I flew out of my room at the same time as Battler-san's scream, and checked to see that the door to Dr. Nanjo's room was still sealed. Therefore, Dr. Nanjo's alibi is perfect, both before 1 and after 3. Nanjo has an alibi. Splendid, Erika. Both your seal and your red truth are perfect. Nanjo had the alibi of being with Erika until 3 a.m. And he didn't leave his room until after 3 a.m. until the morning. Erika made use of the seals on the doors, and was granted red truths from Burncastle one after another. For me, demanding that Beato repeat something that had been about maneuvering and tactics. But it's totally different for Erika. For her, it's like having a trump card that can make red whenever she wants. This concludes the proof of the alibis for all suspects in the guest house. Any problems? I do have a problem. That problem is, Beato racked her brains to find some point to latch onto, but Erika's red had been ruthlessly perfect. There was no point she could take issue with. Beato kept thinking hard, trying to find fault Erika on something, but her expression was so wrought with desperation that anyone could tell by looking. Beato's complaint is rejected. I can't sense any problems at all. It is totally pop, cute, and perfect. Alibis for all humans in the guest house have now been proven. Wait a sec, Erika. Are you trying to leave me out of this? Ushimiya Battler also should have had a chance to commit the crime. After all, I was in the same room as the victims all night. I'm not gonna let you skip past this part while ignoring me. At that time, an arrow twisted like a golden snake and hit me. It didn't pierce through me, but it slapped me hard on the cheek like a whip. Battler-sama, your right to speak has not yet been recognized. Be warned. Oh, damn it. Yeah, I understand, Battler. And my apologies. Forgive me. Erika, you still haven't shown an alibi for Battler. Battler's the man who is sleeping alongside the victims. Shouldn't he be placed under suspicion more than anyone else? Was a crime also possible for Battler, who was in the guest house? Beato's right. You can't go skipping Battler like that. My apologies. I had completely forgotten. After Battler returned at 3 a.m., you went up to the second floor with him. And I believe you also went to your own room and slept. You may have gone to the cousin room at midnight, but I don't think you went there after 3 a.m. Will you now claim that you went to crawl into Battler's bed later on? Well, if you say you were looking at Battler's sleeping face all night long to confirm his alibi in the cousin room, then I'd accept it, right? Yes, I listened to him breathing in his sleep all night long. Got a problem with that? What? I, Furuta Erika, can prove that Battler-san returned to the cousin room at 3 a.m. That he went straight to bed afterwards, and that he went straight to sleep. And I can prove that until he woke up, noticed the gruesome situation the room was in, and let out a scream. Nothing happened in that room. So, you have no need to worry. Battler-san isn't the culprit. He's just a charming first discoverer who entered the murder scene without realizing it was one, and slept until morning. That's insane. It shouldn't be possible for you to prove that with those seals you love so much. How can you prove this? That's ridiculous. At that time, I entered the room alone. Erika probably went into her room too. How can she say something like that as though she saw the whole thing? She never said she saw it. The room Erika was assigned to. Where was it located? Erika, please tell me. How can you prove so much about Battler? I'd expect no less from a true detective. My room was right next to the cousin room. There was only a single thin wall between them. You don't mean... You put your ear against the wall to check what was happening in the cousin room? Yes? My ears are perfect. Right after Battler-san entered the room, I put my ear against the wall and checked to make sure nothing strange happened. You said you could prove that nothing happened until Battler let out a scream the next morning. You don't mean... Yes? I put my ear against the wall and listened in on that room until morning, without sleeping a wink. Everyone was stunned into silence. She put her ear against the wall, and for the entire time until morning, she listened to what was going on in Battler's room. Just what would have that looked like? Until dawn, she had killed her breathing in a pitch-black room, clinging to the wall shared with the cousin room, like some kind of creepy venomous spider clinging to the wall of a darkened room. Berncastle alone was grinning in triumph. Due to the progression of the game, I realized that Battler, the one who had received the head's ring, would be a key player. I was sure that Battler would be a victim of the first Twilight. Yes? So, just as my master told me to do, I put my ear against the wall until morning without a wink of sleep, checking to make sure nothing unusual happened. Erika has a photographic memory, and her hearing ability is on par with a tape recorder. It would have been impossible for him to deceive Erika's ears, either to kill George and the others, or make those wounds on their throats. It was impossible for Battler to commit the crime. Well, alrighty then. But that kind of introduces a really big problem. It's an accepted answer of the detective's authority. I have no choice but to acknowledge it. I'll confirm it in red. Ushima Battler returned to the cousin room at 3 a.m. and fell asleep. After that, until the discovery of the crime, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happened in that room. In other words, it was impossible for Battler to commit murder or damage the corpses. The red from the pair forced Beto to show an expression of considerable anguish. It was only natural. Those red truths not only guaranteed Battler's alibi, but a number of other things as well. First off, it meant the murder was impossible for anyone after 3 a.m. And since the cousins were confirmed to be alive as late as midnight, the time period of the crime automatically became between midnight and 3. That meant the alibis for all people who weren't in the guest house before 3 a.m. had also been guaranteed automatically. It is impossible for the crime to have occurred after 3. That one hurts a lot. After midnight, Erica was in the guest house the whole time, so it should have been difficult for her to prove alibis for all the people in the mansion. It should have been almost impossible to prove alibis for Eva and the others. But now, all she has to do is prove that they never visited the guest house between midnight and 3. And she can prove those alibis. Anyway, we'll have to construct it so that the murders were possible before 3 a.m. And we have to prove that it was possible for one of the people in the mansion to do it. The people who had been in the guest house all had alibis. The crime didn't occur before midnight. The crime couldn't have occurred after 3. In other words, there is no way for the murders to happen unless someone from the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3. It is possible that someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3. In order to protect Natsuhi, she had to establish that it was possible for someone other than Natsuhi to commit the crime. Ironically, the witch had to prove that a human had committed the crime. Still, this is getting pretty difficult. Until 3, Erica was in the lounge. And you have to pass through there to reach the 2nd floor. In other words, she's practically like a manager for the guest house 2nd floor. This tactic may be a bit overused, but if it was possible for someone to go up to the 2nd floor without Erica noticing, we should be able to prove that the crime was possible for anyone. It's probably possible for a human to climb up to a 2nd story window if they really wanted to. We did talk about this before, I think. Could there possibly be a way to reach the 2nd floor without passing through the lounge Erica was in? Of course, Beato had also thought of striking back that way, and Burncastle must have thought this as well. Battler, Nanjo, Goda, Kumasawa. We realized that the crime was impossible for all these people in the guest house. However, what about the humans in the mansion? As I have already said, and as my master has even proclaimed with the red truth, I was in the lounge on the 1st floor of the guest house, and to reach the 2nd floor, one must pass through the lounge. In other words, it was impossible to reach the 2nd floor without me seeing it. And what if that wasn't impossible? For example, what if someone placed a ladder against the outer wall of the guest house and snuck in through a 2nd story window? There must be a way to reach the 2nd floor without passing through the lounge. That way, it would be impossible to reach the crime scene without you seeing it. Beato finally struck back. Before now, she'd let Erica take total control and attack her with a red over and over. During that time, Beato's counterattack to the blue truths had been few in number, even including this one. Of course, I knew you'd try saying that. You couldn't have my lookout in the lounge become meaningless. So first, I must prove that my lookout was perfect. First off, because of how the guest house is constructed, it's impossible to reach the 2nd floor without me seeing it from the lounge. There are no places under cover, nor are there any physical or mental blind spots. My master, repeat it. It is impossible for someone to reach the 2nd floor of the guest house without anyone in the lounge noticing it. So of course, this only refers to reaching the 2nd floor from inside the building. Ghetto, my master! So, next is Lady Beatrice's theory that there might be a way to reach the 2nd floor from the outside. This really is a problem. After all, there are trees that could probably be climbed, and someone could have used the ladder. Even crawling up the rain gutter can't be ruled out as impossible. But I can't let you do that. Oh, you won't let me? And how's that? Did you stay up all night circling the guest house? No, you couldn't do that. You were in the lounge. From the lounge, you can only see a small part of the outer perimeter through the window.
そうです
That's true.
私は
I couldn't prevent all methods of climbing up to the second floor from the outside.
しかし
However,
2階へ侵
I
入
was
する
able
こ
to
とを
prevent
防ぐ
all
ことが
entry
で
to
き
the
ました
second floor.
侵入
Prevent entry?
防ぐと
すでに読めてい
I
る
had already foreseen this move.
恐ろしい
How terrifying that she would be so
ここまで
persistent.
強いとは
ゲストハウスは
Because of how the
その
guest
構
house
造
is constructed,
外部から
the windows are the only
2階へ
method
侵
of
入する
entry
には
from the
窓を
outside to
使
the
う
second
ことはあり
floor.
ません施錠
The locks?
どうでも
Not
いいこと
important
で
at
す
all.
ただ
I only had to prove that none of the windows or shutters were
一度も
opened
開か
even
れなかっ
once.
たことを欲し私は
After I witnessed the location of the hidden gold,
ラウンジを通
I
過せず
returned to
に
the guest house and immediately began severing all methods of entry to the second floor of the guest house that didn't pass through the lounge.
へえ
Yes, it's exactly the
これ
same.
までと何も
No
変
different
わ
from the
ら
rest.
ずあんた
Don't tell me.
まさか
You used that seal of yours on all the windows of the guest house?
封印をしたあの天気の中
In that weather? Dressed like that? Well,
一応
I did have my swimsuit from when I drifted here.
持ってますので
You're
や
insane.
がるぜ客人として迎え
At a house where you were welcomed as a guest,
そんなこと
you did something like
触る
that in the middle of the rain, even though nothing had happened yet?
普通の人間
For a
なら
normal human, it would have been an action so suspicious as to be completely impossible.
ですが彼女
However,
は魔女の
she
駒
is
です
the
から
witch's piece. In the middle of all that rain, Erica sealed all the windows from the outside, to create an alibi showing that no one could have snuck into the guest house from the outside. She climbed up the wall herself, and did that to all the windows on the first and second floor. No, to all the things that could possibly have permitted entry. Although, after hearing that she'd listened to the cousin room all night long, without even sleeping a wink, this new bizarre action didn't seem quite so impossible. This had probably also looked like a venomous spider. A disgusting spider crawling over the outside guest house wall during a storm.
あなたという人は我が後ろ宮家
Just
を
what do you
何だと心
think
得て
of
おら
us,
れる
you
ので
Shirumia
すか
family?
客人として迎えた
Is this how you repay us for welcoming you as a guest?
探偵にとって
To a detective, the Ushima family is nothing more or less than the stage upon which the crime occurs.
私にとって
Before the outbreak of the crime, it was important for me to memorize the names of the characters, memorize the layouts of the land, and prepare for the upcoming crime by devoting my time towards collecting and creating all possible alibis. From my perspective, detectives who don't prepare anything before the outbreak of the crime are pretty third-rate. After all, we all know that someone will die wherever we spend the night.
そしてエリカは
Furthermore, at the time the crime was discovered, Erica confirmed that none of these seals had been broken. That's why Erica wasn't the first one to reach the cousin room when the corpses were found. Even without inspecting the corpses, she could be certain of several things thanks to the red truth. It was more important to check the seals and construct alibis. My master is perfect. All I did was prove everything perfectly by following my master's orders. Well done, Erica. My double, my piece. What do you think, Lambda? Doesn't this prove that Erica's lookout in the lounge contains absolute reliability as far as constructing alibis? There is no way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge. Yeah, I acknowledge it. Erica, your seal is perfect. I'll acknowledge it in red. It was impossible to reach the second floor of the guest house without passing through the lounge, and impossible to reach it at all without Erica, who was in the lounge, knowing about it. Thank you very much, Lady Lambda Delta. So, you know what's coming next, great Lady Beatrice. Therefore, the time of the crime is limited to the single hour between midnight, or when they were confirmed to be alive, and 1 a.m. when our party in the lounge started. I've already said it, but at midnight, I went down to the lounge. hit it off with Dr. Nacho, and was engrossed by a discussion of the mystery genre in the library until 1 a.m. It's a bit embarrassing, but I grew so wrapped up in that discussion that I wouldn't have noticed if anyone had passed through the corridor during that period. Quite a regretful mistake for a detective. After doing all that maneuvering and setting up seals to guarantee a perfect alibi, she became too engrossed in mystery discussion and left an opening. Her relaxed smile was completely shameless, the total opposite of her words. It almost seemed like it's the other way around. It's enough to make you think that this was an intentional trap, to make it clear to all that only Natsuhi didn't have an alibi between midnight and 1. In other words, it paradoxically means this. The only ones who could have reached the cousin room and committed the crime are those characters who have no alibi between midnight and 1. Her eyes clearly hinted that Natsuhi was the only one who fit this description. It is only possible for the crime to have occurred between midnight and 1. I'm gonna keep going. It should have been a crime whose time and location were completely unknown during that long night. But because of the alibis Erica had constructed, it had been limited to the time period between midnight and 1. Erica left the cousin room at midnight. That marks the last confirmation that George and the others were alive. And after the party in the lounge started at 1, it was impossible to reach the cousin room by any method. Damn her. And from a mere human. This is quite bad. The night has been sealed up into an hour, and at this rate there won't be many suspect pieces left. Damn it, Lady Burncastle. Nicely done. Unlike Battler, I'm not an idiot. After watching this game 5 times, I've got more than enough cards in my hand. Then let us continue. Let us examine the alibis of the remaining suspects, the people in the mansion. After all, we only have to worry about the single hour between midnight and 1. That shouldn't be difficult at all. Let's start with midnight. At this time, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji are in the second floor corridor, and all of the others are in the first floor dining hall. This has already been shown by my master's red. Yeah, that's right. At midnight, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in the corridor of the second floor of the mansion. The rest of them were in the dining hall on the first floor. And as you know, there was a mysterious knock and a letter with the one-winged seal on it appeared. The discussion surrounding that continued on until 1. I will say it with the red truth. Of all the people in the dining hall, not one of them left the dining hall until 1 a.m. Excluding Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji, none of the people in the mansion left the mansion before 1. Since the possible times the crime had been limited to between midnight and 1, the adults in the family conference, who were confirmed not to have left the mansion between midnight and 1, all had proven alibis. And how do you intend to prove that? Erica's in the guest house. Did someone prove it by using one of your favorite seals on the dining hall door? You have no convincing evidence or proof. The red truth is simply truth, and there's no need to provide evidence, proof, or room for a counter-argument. You made that rule. This overbearing red truth hadn't only given alibis to the adults in the dining hall. It also gave alibis to Shannon and Ken, who had come to serve tea, and even guaranteed that they never left the dining hall. In other words, the only ones who didn't have proven alibis were these 3, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji. No, there are only 2 left. If Kraus and Genji had their alibis proven, it proves that no one but Natsuhi could have been the culprit. Let's do Genji next. He's the victim, but you can't deny the possibility that he committed the crime in the cousin room, and was then killed himself. And furthermore, though he was in the second floor corridor at midnight, he then returned to the servant room to transfer the phone call for Natsuhi, and was completely isolated. Was the crime also possible for Genji, who was in the mansion? Which means it was possible for Genji to commit the... I'll say it in red. When Genji finished transferring the call, he immediately returned to the waiting room. That's just a cold, hard truth without any evidence, proof, seals, or alibis. Got it? Then, at 1 a.m., there was another break in the family conference, and Rosa returned to the guest house. At that time, I'm truly thankful for your cooperation, Ushimiya Eva-san. Please rise. Erika-chan wasn't the only one, okay? I was also certain that something would happen that night. She's the person who taught me how to make those seals, and she helped me to check the alibis of those people under suspicion. During the break at 1 a.m., I went to Genji-san's waiting room and used the same seal as Erika-chan. In other words, if that wasn't broken, it would mean no one entered or left that room between 1 a.m. and the next morning. The murder of Genji is also limited to the time span between midnight and 1. Now, Kanen-san and Kumasawa-san, please rise. Kanen rose expressionlessly, and Kumasawa got to her feet timidly. In the morning, you two weren't to wake Genji-san because he had slept in, right? And at that time, you noticed that the door was sealed, broke the seal, and opened the door, correct? Yes. I thought it was some kind of prank. I didn't think deeply about it at the time. I'm not asking for your opinions, just give us the facts. Did you break the seal and enter the room? Yes. With the red truth, I'll guarantee that Eva, Kanen, and Kumasawa's statements just now are the truth. At 1 a.m., Eva sealed Genji's waiting room, and that seal was broken by Kanen and Kumasawa in the morning when the crime was discovered. This will be a pain, so I'll add on some more. During the short break at 1 a.m., the first two to leave the dining hall were Rosa and Eva. Until Eva returned, everyone in the dining hall remained there. After seeing Rosa off, Eva went to the waiting room and sealed it. Of course, she did not enter the room at all at this time. This is all information gathered from the people involved. It isn't a red truth without a basis. It's a truth due to proper reasoning constructed from testimony. Not only testimony, but the limits of scientific investigation, such as collecting fingerprints, were used here. After all, Genzo-san's study is a treasure vault with all kinds of chemicals. I obtained all sorts of results to create an ultimate truth, infinitely close to a red truth. This isn't a science mystery, so I'll spare you the details. As Erika swaggered around the cathedral, she arrogantly touted her scientific knowledge. She had thorough knowledge of all the chemicals in Kinzo's study, and had used them to conduct a scientific investigation, which had now been acknowledged and made into a red truth by Berncastle. She didn't explain the details, but she had obtained results that were convincing even without the red truth. Collecting fingerprints with aluminum powder, component analysis of the mud under someone's shoe, and various chemical reactions from the clinging rainwater. Erika just walked into someone else's study several times, and used several chemicals however she pleased, all without asking the family's permission. However, no one could fault her for this. The pieces couldn't hinder any action the detective might take for the investigation. That's the power of the detective's authority. You act like you own the place. From now on, I'll tell everyone I meet. If someone claims to be a detective, never welcome them into your house as a guest. That's probably a good idea. Giving shelter to a detective is just about the worst omen of misfortune out there. Because of this, it has been proven that it was only possible to reach Genji's waiting room and commit the crime between midnight and 1. And furthermore, by Erika's investigation, It has been proven that it was impossible for Genji to reach the cousin room. It had already been made clear in red that, after transferring the phone call to Natsuhi, Genji had gone straight back to the waiting room, and because of Erika's scientific investigation, further red had been added, saying Genji never left the mansion after midnight. Because of this, it's been made clear that Genji couldn't have reached the guest house, much less the cousin room. Genji has an alibi. No, only Kraus and Natsuhi remain. Everyone else has had their alibis proven, haven't they? Impossible. Natsuhi's mouth flapped open and shut like a suffocating goldfish. And that's an accurate analogy. Natsuhi's mind was blank and spinning out of control as she felt as though she really would suffocate. Ushiromiya Natsuhi, I'll give you one last chance. Confess that all of the crimes were the work of your husband. Fool! Do I look like the kind of woman who would falsely accuse her husband? Beato, Natsuhi's denied it. I'll give you the same chance. You understand, right? Or wait, don't tell me. You aren't going to take advantage of the fact that Kraus is missing to try and pull a devil's proof on me, are you? Was the crime also possible for Kraus, who was in the mansion? Beato realized that they were rapidly approaching the end of this battle. Normally, Beato should have been able to argue against these alibis of Erika's in several ways using the blue truth. However, all of those alibis had been accepted by Bernkastel and Lambda Delta as red truth, and Beato no longer had any room to argue. It's like those switches are distorting things so that they match with the plotline Erika's drawn up. That's right. If the Game Master Lady Lambda Delta accepts the truth, its authenticity will not be questioned. The world that comes after will be formed based on the final remaining truth. This happens no matter how far this final truth is from the real truth. There's no way Uncle Kraus is the culprit. He's being held prisoner somewhere. Wait. We can't deny the possibility that Aunt Natsui was skillfully tricked into believing that during the phone call. Do you suspect Natsuhi and Kraus, Battler-kun? Well, Erika's truth has been constructed in a cowardly fashion, but it is a proper truth. Though the witches did conspire with her, it has still been acknowledged as a red truth. In other words, it cannot be a fake truth built solely on lies. This means that even Erika's truth is purported by logic. The truth about Natsuhi and Kraus being culprits is also very possible. Even if it's a mixture of truth and lies, it makes sense logically. It's a mixture of truth and lies that is just as valuable as truth is. Which of those truths will you believe? That is up for you to decide. No. I'll trust Aunt Natsuhi and Uncle Kraus. I realize they're in some money trouble. But even so, I don't want to believe that they're the culprits. No, I can't believe it. On this game board, where the red is steadily cornering Natsuhi, how do you intend to let her escape? I don't know. However, I seriously don't want to give up. Aunt Natsuhi was just caught in a cowardly trap. Erika's reasoning has fallen for a trap completely. So whether it's intentional or she's being manipulated, Erika is aiding the true culprit. Erika has accused Aunt Natsuhi of being the culprit, but even if everyone here believes that. In fact, for that very reason, I want to be the one person who trusts Aunt Natsuhi. If everyone believes it's her, will that become the truth? If everyone accepts a lie, will that become the truth? Must an honest person be dragged up to the guillotine, all alone and taunted by liars? I don't like it. If no one else will believe in that Natsuhi, then I will. The real truth isn't something that's determined when everyone accepts it. It's something you find after thoroughly investigating both possibilities. So this trial is a downright lie. This trial exists for no reason other than to set Aunt Natsuhi up as the culprit. Beato is doing all she can to plead Natsuhi's case, right? Wrong. Beato is trying to refute Erika's argument. She's just defending. You can't fight in this trial by simply resisting all of your opponent's claims. This is why Beato always cornered me in the past. She isn't going to beat Erika by finding flaws in her reasoning. She has to find a different truth, and show Lambda Delta, the commander of this game, that her truth is more correct than Erika's. Can anyone create a truth where Natsuhi isn't the culprit, without violating the red truths that Lady Burncastle has shown? I don't know. But, as long as I don't believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, there's got to be a different truth. It's even okay if the culprit for the crime was a witch. That's better than having Natsuhi be framed by an innocent truth. So, no matter how much red truth you are shown, you won't believe that Natsuhi is the culprit, correct? Yeah. For all things, there should always be some people who believe and some who don't. No matter how much evidence is stacked up against her, someone has to believe that she's innocent. There must be several truths in the world that cannot be proven with evidence. I don't ever want to accept that something's true, just because everyone says it is. How can you be sure that there's nothing on the backside of the moon if you've never seen it? Is there some reason that you have to believe it? Until you see the back of the moon with your own eyes, you can deny neither the possibility that something's there at all, nor the possibility that there's a thriving culture of space bunnies. Space bunnies? You should never assume something is the truth until you actually check it. This court is a malicious thing, trying to force a single interpretation on a truth that cannot be checked. I believe there was a civilization on the back of the moon, but that was in elementary school and I was made fun of and laughed at. So I thought it was embarrassing to think that a civilization lived on the moon, and I threw away that belief. I've been told by a book my mom read that the rabbits lived on the backside of the moon, so I believed that for a long, long time. But when everyone said it was wrong, I abandoned that truth without even trying to check it. Even without evidence, I abandoned the truth I believed in. And now, everyone is starting to believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, even though no decisive evidence has been shown. Even without evidence, Erika's words sound reasonable, so they're probably the truth. Is that why you're throwing away your belief that Aunt Natsuhi is innocent, despite the lack of truth? If no one else will believe, then I will. I believe the real truth only appears if you look with both eyes, one denying and one affirming. No matter how much she tries to make us believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, I believe she isn't. I won't abandon that belief. Understood. Then I will give you just a single red truth. I will give this single bit of power to you, now that you possess the will to fight in the truest sense. Power? By the name of the finite witch Virgilia. No, that's the former witch Beatrice. I will grant you this red truth. Ushiromiya Natsuhi is not the culprit. That's where I'm going to leave off for today. We overstepped quite a bit, but this is kind of crazy. Off to page 2 now. Anyway, I do got to get going. Thank you for being with me. And I'll see you later. Take care, everyone. And confirm your alibis. They're very important. Make sure nobody's listening in on you in the wall next to you all night long to confirm you're still there. See you later.